Apple just released iOS 26.5, and although it's not as big of an update as iOS 26.4 was, it does still include quite a few features and changes that you will want to know about. So in this video, we're going to be discussing everything new in iOS 26.5. We're going to talk about the performance, the battery life, and of course, if you should update or not. Okay, so let's start by talking about what's new in iOS 26.5. So the first change has to do with messaging, more specifically, messaging with RCS. So we now have end-to-end encryption for RCS messaging with iOS 26.5, which means that messages sent between iPhone and Android are now end-to-end encrypted. So that means that only the sender and the recipient can read them, not Apple, Google, your carrier, any type of third party. Nobody can intercept that message now while it's being sent. So messages via RCS will basically be more secure now. And you'll see this little encrypted key right here in RCS messages now. So this showed up before in iMessage, but now you will see that also for RCS messaging, as long as you and the recipient both have, an up-to-date device and you are using RCS, not SMS. And keep in mind, end-to-end encryption is enabled by default. So it is on by default. And if you go into your messages settings right here and go down here to where we have RCS right here under text messaging, you will see end-to-end encryption, which is currently in beta, which is worth noting. So it may not be available for all devices or carriers, it says. And it says conversations labeled as encrypted are encrypted end-to-end, so messages can't be read while they're sent between devices. And if this sounds familiar to you, it's because Apple did test this feature in the iOS 26.4 betas, but it did not make the final release until now with iOS 26.5. If you have an Apple Watch, there's a slight change to the Workout Buddy on the lock screen. So the live activity here now shows Workout Buddy on the lock screen, and you can tap to read and it will show you the transcript. Before, it did not show up on the iPhone underneath of the workout view here. There's also a change to reminders. So we have a reminder here for take the trash out. If we haptic press on that, you will see that now we have a couple of changes here. So first off, it says remind me in 1 hour now instead of an hour. This is 26.4.2 on the left, by the way, iOS 26.5 on the right. Also, before it said remind me in the morning, now it says remind me tomorrow at 9 a.m. So it's more specific with a time. It actually gives you a time instead of just saying in the morning. So that's a small change here, but something that's noteworthy for reminders. iOS 26.5 also includes a new wallpaper. So if you go to your wallpaper section here and you tap on the plus and you scroll down until you get to the Pride, you will see this. Now, if you don't have this downloaded, you will have to tap on the Get button next to Pride. But if you do have Pride already downloaded, you will see these first two are the brand new wallpapers with iOS 26.5. So if you tap on that, you can see what it looks like. And this is actually one of my favorite Pride wallpaper collections over the past few years. So a lot of them don't look as good as this, in my opinion. This also really just goes well with iOS 26 in general, the liquid glass design. So you can see these different colors, the different, Roman numerals down there to indicate which one you are on. And if you get all the way to the very end, you will see you can actually choose a custom color. So if you want to do something like this, for example, we could do that, or different colors. You can kind of change it up with all these different colors. So we have up to, I'm not even sure what the maximum amount is, but you can see, okay, so 12 is the maximum amount. So you can combine 12 different colors to make a really cool, unique combination here for your wallpaper. And you can see this little edit button right here as well. If you tap on that, that will pull up the color selector here where you can choose and kind of swap out the different colors. So that's pretty neat. Let's go ahead and add this to our home screen and as a wallpaper pair so you can see the animation. So when we go to our home screen, take a look at that animation. Very cool animation. That's something that Apple always does really well with their default wallpapers. Take a look at that, especially the Pride ones always have this really cool, animation effect when you go from lock screen to home screen. Now, perhaps the biggest change in iOS 26.5 is that we now have ads in the Apple Maps application. Now, before you get super upset, it's not nearly as bad as it seems. So first off, you can see that Apple does say ads on Maps will appear when users search in Maps and can appear at the top of a user's search results based on relevance. And the main place you're going to see these ads are with suggested places. If I search for coffee shops, for example, in this area, you will see see up top here little sections where we have suggested places. So that's going to recommend, locations and like coffee shops in this example that are nearby and trending. So that is one area you will see it. Also, when you go to search for something in Apple Maps, you'll see right here we have suggested places. So now you'll see on the main search section inside of Maps, you will have suggested places, where as of now it shows 2 different suggested places in that area. And if you're worried about privacy with ads in Maps, Apple makes it very clear that that's one of their biggest focuses. And they say that there is no tracking and everything stays on device. So they say this: Apple doesn't know which stores, neighborhoods, or clinics you visit, and Maps doesn't require you to sign in to use it. Even if you choose to sign in, Maps keeps your data in sync across all your devices using end-to-end encryption, so where you go isn't associated with your Apple account at all. Now, there's also a change when you're doing an iPhone to Android transfer. So if you go to your settings, general, and then transfer or reset, and then you go to transfer to Android, there is a new feature, a new change here in iOS 26.5, because now there's a setting for selecting how many message attachments get transferred over to your Android device from your iPhone. So it can be all of your message attachments, which are like photos and videos that were sent in messages, or you could have just the past year or the past 30 days. Those are the only ones that will get transferred over. So if you only want to do like 30 days or a year, that will absolutely save you some space and also some time for the transfer. Another change in iOS 26.5 is when you connect an accessory, so say a Magic Keyboard, to an iPhone with the USB-C cord, the iPhone will now automatically establish a Bluetooth connection with that accessory. So if you have a cable nearby and I plugged the keyboard into my iPhone, the USB-C port into the USB-C port on the Magic Keyboard, it will automatically create a Bluetooth connection, which can actually be very handy. And it's kind of a shortcut to connecting devices. Now, if you're in the EU, there is also a new change in iOS 26.5 that's going to give you AirPods-like pairing and notification forwarding for third-party wearables, plus forwarding live activities to a third-party wearable device. So if you have something that's not an Apple Watch, for example, you will have that. And you will see the settings for notification forwarding inside of your settings and notifications. Near the top, you will see a section for notification forwarding if you are in the EU. In the Books application, iOS 26.5 mentions new awards in Apple Books, which are likely going to be for year-end wrap-up. So we might be seeing a year-end wrap-up in Books, and it's going to give you awards. It's going to basically award books that you maybe read throughout the year. Another change is inside of settings and go into general. We're going to go down until we see keyboard right here. We're going to go to keyboards and we're going to add a new keyboard. And there is a new keyboard down here under the eyes. So these are the new keyboard layout options right here. So we have this and we also have it in Latin. Now, as far as security patches go, iOS 26.5 will have some security patches in this update. So if you're not a big fan of any of the new features or changes in iOS 26.5, just know that it is probably worth updating just for the security patches alone. Now, as of the time of recording this video, Apple has not yet published exactly what those bug fixes and those security patches are, but you better believe that they will be, resolving some of those bugs and those exploits that are out there in the wild. So I will leave that link down below in the description when Apple does publish that. But just know, if you're wondering, should you update? Yes, you should update, because those security patches alone, that's always big enough reason. And of course, if you are somebody who messages somebody with RCS, so if you maybe used WhatsApp in the past because you didn't have end-to-end encryption on iPhone, now we have end-to-end encryption with RCS messaging. So you can basically ditch WhatsApp now and use the iPhone now that we have that feature. So again, it is a worthy update if you are somebody who uses RCS. And of course, if you care about the security of your device, which most of you guys should. Now, as far as the performance and the battery life goes, I did run a fresh Geekbench score here on 26.5. You can see we scored a 3809 single core, 9376 on the multi-core. Nothing too crazy. I've noticed that the performance overall on 26.5 is very similar to iOS 26.4. It does feel a little bit smoother. Like a lot of the, rough edges of 26.4 and iOS 26 seem to be getting rounded out now. They seem to be a non-issue. So I've really had no crashes, no type of glitches, really nothing at all like that on 26.5. So it's relatively stable, in general, as it should be at this point of iOS 26, but I did not notice a massive difference from 26.4. So if you're trying to update expecting a big performance boost, I would not go in expecting that. And the same kind of goes for battery life as well. So I'm currently at 64% right now. You'll have to tell me what I started this video with, but battery life overall has been great. It has been a little bit better than iOS 26.4 and previous versions, so that is a good sign, but it's still, in my opinion, not as good as iOS 18, which is kind of a disappointment, but it is getting close to that point, and hopefully it will continue to get better as I continue to use the software. And then looking a little bit further ahead to the next release for Apple, so we will be seeing iOS 26.6 at some point. We could see those betas come out pretty soon, but we should see that at some point in June. But of course, at this point, all eyes are going to be on iOS 27 because we are very close from seeing the very first beta, the unveil of iOS 27 on day one of Apple's WWDC, the Worldwide Developers Conference, which takes place right here on Monday, June 8th. So we are less than a month away from seeing that update, and that's going to be big, and we are going to see that first beta get released right there on Monday, June 8th as well. And again, that is going to be the beta, not the final release. The final release of iOS 27 is not going to be out until September when the new iPhones get announced. So that is iOS 26.5. Not a major new feature release, but it is going to be something that gives us end-to-end encryption, the new wallpapers, some security patches. Can't really complain when we're on a 0.5 updates at this point. There's not going to be a ton of new features. Of course, Apple is saving those for iOS 27. But overall, I'm a fan of iOS 26.5. I think it's great, and I think that most people should go ahead and update it. There's really no reason to stay back on previous software at this point. But hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, I would appreciate if you give it a thumbs up. Also know your thoughts down there on the Pride wallpaper and end-to-end encryption, all that stuff. Let me know all your thoughts down there in the comments below. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.